If you can afford to rent, you can afford to buy for sure. Let's get into it. Hey guys, how you doing? Werenka here. I'm the state of Michigan broker for Simply Home. We're one of the fastest growing real estate companies in the United States, and I've got an all-star team. So whether you're looking to buy, sell, invest, rent, whatever you need, we've got you covered. We even do property management now. So one of the things that I've been doing every morning is shooting just a quick real estate related 1 minute to 2 minute video, just giving an update on the bigger real estate news stories of the day. One of the biggest themes out there, one of the things that people are talking about the most, obviously, is affordability or the lack thereof. We're in an era right now where, especially nationally, there's definitely an affordability problem. Home ownership is not accessible for first-time buyers, people who are starting out, young families, things like that, in most of the rest of the country. The average price for new construction in the United States is over $400,000 right now. Interest rates dropped into the fives for literally like 2 days, and now they're rocketing back up towards the sevens. So right now, we're not there yet, but we're in the low to mid sixes on mortgage rates again. Long story short, in a lot of the rest of the country, it's not really a feasible thing for the average, starter purchaser to actually purchase a home. So people are stuck renting, they're stuck, having a bunch of roommates, they're stuck living with mom and dad. Basically, the American dream is inaccessible in parts of the country right now, with the notable exception of the Midwest, luckily for us. And I would say Metro Detroit specifically. Obviously, I've been a big proponent of home ownership, first-time buyers, things like that. I've always enjoyed working with first-time buyers ever since I've been in the business. It's one of my favorite types of client to work with. So I'm making this video right now. We're going to break it down exactly how affordable it is to purchase your first home, or even a move-up home, or whatever, a home in general in our market compared to, the rest of the country. And we're going to look at it a couple different ways. We're going to look at the number of homes and the price points available in our market. We're going to talk about some of the first-time buyer programs out there available to you. And then I'm going to use a home that I recently sold literally like less than a month ago as the perfect example of what I'm talking about. But first of all, let's talk about inventory for a minute, because that's where it all starts. And I know I just mentioned that the average new construction home in this country is over $400,000. There's, think about it. If we were in, I don't know, San Diego or something right now, where a studio apartment is 750 grand, then yes, you're not going to, if you're just starting out in your career, you're going to have a very tough time affording that, realistically, as a first-time buyer. However, here in Metro Detroit, in our market right this very minute, today, I checked these numbers like 15 minutes ago, there's over 2,300 homes available in Metro Detroit for $200,000 or less. Currently, right now, as of today, there are 134 homes in Oakland County under $200,000. There's 260 of those homes in Macomb County, and there's 1,952 homes on the market under $200,000 in Wayne County. So anybody tells you that, home ownership is not accessible for you as you're starting out in your career or starting your family or whatever, they're buying into those national headlines. That's not the truth on the ground right now in the Detroit market. If you've watched this channel for any length of time of home ownership in the city of Detroit, I'm a huge proponent of home ownership in Pontiac. I've owned property in Pontiac for almost 20 years of my life. And, the homes that I'm talking about here, they're not all just Pontiac and Detroit, but there's plenty of homes in those two cities if that's what you're looking for. So no worries there either. But the bottom line is, if you want to start your home ownership journey, start building wealth, start building that equity, start paying yourself every month when you make that payment instead of paying a landlord, that ability is there in our market. Now let's talk about how we get you there. Obviously, if you've got money saved up for a down payment and closing costs, that is a massive help. That's going to make things a lot easier and give you more options, but that understandably is not going to probably realistically be the case for a lot of the people who are watching this looking to buy that first home. I totally get it. Everything's getting more expensive and your discretionary income is probably getting smaller and smaller, along with your savings. So there are multiple paths to get you into that home and lower your monthly payment on housing that don't involve forking over a ton of money for a down payment. But before we get into that, let's talk about closing costs, because that's another huge factor of purchasing your home. Your closing costs will probably, with a mortgage, be somewhere in the area of about 3% of the purchase price. And that's in addition to your down payment. And one tool that we have on the buyer side is asking the seller for seller concessions. We can write that right into the offer. We could do that after the inspection. There's multiple times we can do that. But essentially what that is the seller's taking a percentage of the equity in the home that they would otherwise be getting when they sell it, and they're giving it back to you to pay your closing costs. Majority of the closing costs are mortgage related. It'll be like loan origination, processing fee, things like that, the appraisal, something that would be a closing cost that you'd have to pay. Sometimes you actually have to pay that prior to closing. But that being said, the majority of your closing costs are going to be mortgage related. There's also going to be tax prorations where you're reimbursing that seller for the taxes that they've already paid on the home that they won't be using. And then there's like homeowners insurance as well. Your loan officer would be able to itemize everything that you would be, expected to contribute at the closing table. But we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Long story short, it's going to be about 3% of the purchase price. Now, the good news is there are multiple avenues that offer down payment assistance in varying forms. So I'm going to talk about a few of the ones that I like the most right now. The city of Detroit has a program where they're offering $25,000 in down payment assistance for buyers that had ran out of money and it just got restored. So that is available as of right now if you're looking to purchase a home in Detroit. Now, that process does take a little bit longer to close, and there's a little bit of red tape to deal with, but nothing crazy, nothing that can't be done. It's an awesome program, and I wholeheartedly endorse it. The Mishta program is awesome for first-time home buyer down payment assistance. That could even cover your closing costs as well. That one takes the form of kind of like a second mortgage, but that amount reduces over time. So I believe, now don't quote me on this, but I believe it's once you've owned that home for 7 years, that drops off entirely. If you have to sell your home before that, you'd have to reimburse for a declining percentage of that down payment assistance. But generally speaking, most people that I've done a Mishta mortgage with are still in their homes, so that's not an issue. But things happen. Just be aware that if you do have to sell your home within the first couple of years, you're gonna probably have to repay some of that Mishta down payment assistance. And then one of my favorite programs right now is through United Wholesale Mortgage. It's a 1% down mortgage product. And the way that it works is pretty cool. It's actually a 3% down mortgage product, but United Wholesale Mortgage covers 2% of that for you. And so you're really only bringing 1% down to purchase that property. And some of these down payment assistance programs do have like geographical restrictions. So, just get with me before you get too far into it, just to make sure that, the home that you have in mind is even covered under these programs. But I think regardless, in this price point, in the areas that we'd be looking in, I think it would be, pretty realistic to think that you're going to be able to use some kind of a down payment assistance program to help you out no matter where you're looking to buy. So far we've managed to determine that those houses do exist for you as a first time buyer. We've managed to cut the money that you need to bring to purchase that home way down from where it was like when I bought my first property. And then let's talk real numbers. Like, what does it look like to buy one of these homes versus what you could expect to pay in rent? So this is a home that I sold literally just a couple weeks ago. It's on Caledonia Street in Hazel Park. It's a very typical, 3-bedroom, 1-bath ranch, very, similar to a lot of houses in Hazel Park. This one has a basement, doesn't have a garage. It was, move-in ready condition, about 1,000 square feet. So very, very standard for the city of Hazel Park. I was able to negotiate the price on this one down to $128,750. So let's break those numbers down. Say you didn't have any kind of a down payment. You just financed that entire amount, $128,750 at 7% interest, which is higher than our average right now, but I'd rather overestimate than underestimate. That would put your principal and interest at $856.58 per month. And that would be totally awesome if that was your entire payment, but it's not. So there's also tax and insurance involved. The current property taxes on that house are $1,560 per month. And then let's estimate like $150 a month for insurance. So that puts your total monthly payment on that house at that price. So principal, interest, tax, and insurance is $1,136.58. We're taking that same house and we're renting it for $1,500 right now. And that's not even high on the rental side for Hazel Park. That's very, very average. So that ends up being a total savings of $363.42 per month, every month, where I'm sure you could find better things to do with that money than pay a landlord. That's going to save you almost $4,400 every single year. And let's get really crazy, just over the life of that 30-year loan, you'd save almost $131,000. So long story short, we can definitely save you a ton of money and get you into that first home where you can start building equity. You can take that, $4,300 every month and put that back in your pocket. Plus, every month that you make a payment, a portion of that is going back into your equity and building you equity on that home. And at the same time, Hazel Park is a pretty solid investment. Whether the average sale price fluctuates, on a short-term basis, over the long term, that's definitely a city that's on its way up. And, I'm just using that as one example just because it popped into my head because I just sold it. But at the end of the day, you've got tons of options out there. There's multiple cities where you're going to be able to, search around, find homes that fit your budget. And we're talking move-in ready homes too. I'm not talking fixer-uppers or grandma's house that was, updated in 1967 or anything like that. 6, 7. I got kids, so there you go. So in an era when the average first-time buyer nationwide is 40 years old, the average move-up buyer is 58, and the average, buyer in general is like 63 years old, is absolutely insane. When I first got in the real estate business, the average first-time buyer was 27. In our market, you can still be 27 and afford that first home. And obviously, there's a lot of moving parts on this. There's a lot of things that have to come together right to make that happen. If you have any questions at all, just reach out, call or text anytime. My direct line is 586-491-5622. You can always email me, Werenka@simplyhome.com. I'm on all the socials. Shoot me a DM. I'll respond quick. But don't sleep on this, guys. This is a good way to save money. It's a good way to build wealth. And, it's a good way to just increase stability. Like, you never know. I run into so many instances where people have to move because their landlord is selling the house. Like, you're the landlord in that instance, and you'll know if you have to sell the house. If you don't want to sell it, you won't. So it makes a lot of sense just to, you can plan longer term when there's fewer variables out there that can change. And as always, thank you so much for watching this. I truly appreciate it. Any questions you have, let me know. Leave a comment down below. If you're still here, if you like and subscribe, I'd appreciate it. The algorithm likes that. And I'll be back soon with another video. So thanks again, guys. Appreciate it. Good luck out there, and we'll talk soon.